Hello there and welcome. We are live here in Las Vegas. This is your live lounge coming from the Fastmarkets Lithium and Battery Raw Materials Conference. Very, very excited to be here. We are in the midst of everything. All the hustle and bustle is going on around us, and this is your Fastmarkets Live Lounge brought to you by Aquatech. Now, I'm Georgia Tolley. I'll be your host today, and I am joined on our wonderful sofas by Gene Morgan. Now, he is the founder and CEO of Zelandez. They are a company very well known in the lithium sector, but with an interesting backstory that very few know about, and I'm looking forward to sort of digging into that. Now, Gene actually started out as a wireline field engineer on deep water rigs with S&P. Then he was actually working across some of the most remote corners of the globe. Since then, he's moved into leadership roles in Europe, Africa, and Latin America before turning to lithium and founding Zelandez. Now, his company is essentially the world's leading independent brine field services provider. They help lithium projects from Argentina to the United States basically extract faster, smarter, and more efficiently using advanced tech and field expertise. Gene, welcome to the Live Lounge. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really interested to dig into your story because you've gone from those deep water oil rigs to building one of the leading companies in lithium brine services. What is the story behind that journey?
Yeah, sure. So my background, I'm a mechanical engineer by profession, but I ended up in the oil and gas industry for about 10 years, working all around the world. And I think what I learned from oil and gas was just the high stakes decisions that you have to make on a regular basis. And kind of the thrill of being in that environment where there's lots at play, very international, very geostrategic. And I think taking what I learned from there and bringing it across to lithium, which is kind of the new oil industry, let's say, it's following a similar path to where oil started and where it's got to. And that's part of the role in us is bringing those technologies and ideas largely from oil and gas, but other sectors into lithium.
Okay, interesting. So a sort of similar, I suppose, theme running through your role. But why specifically lithium? Why did you make the leap into that specific mineral?
Yeah, so I guess it was by chance. I ended up in Bolivia in 2008 for working in oil and gas. And on that trip, I met my wife, went to Zelandez Uni for the first time. And I think at that, 2008 was roughly when EVs were starting to get into the news. You had the Tesla Roadster coming out. So there was a real question of where's the lithium coming from? And everyone was pointing to Bolivia at that time because it has the largest resource. So it got me thinking, that planted the seed. And roughly in the 2010s is when I looked at it in a bit more detail and realized, well, hang on, this EV thing is starting to take off. It's real. It's going to happen. And when I looked at it more deeply, a lot of the understanding of lithium brine resources is more similar to oil and gas, you would say, than to conventional mining. So a lot of those techniques can be brought across.
Okay, so what did you see in that space that Zelandez could do differently to what other companies were doing?
So when we looked at it, we saw that it was a classic mining game. It's lithium. In reality, it's in the mining industry. But when we looked at it from an oil and gas mindset, we thought, well, hang on a minute. This is a fluid resource, not your typical conventional mining. Therefore, the processes and techniques are more similar to oil and gas than other mining resources. So we thought, okay, there's a speciality here. There's a need for tech-enabled services specific to lithium brine. And we firmly believe that will continue to play out. There'll be a certain niche in lithium where you've got technologies that are built specifically for this industry. And that's the fun of it. That's the thrill of being in an industry young, but wide open for innovation.
And Is that innovation happening now? Because I understand that to extract lithium at the moment can take up to 18 months, but there are new technologies coming onto the market.
Correct, yeah. So you've got what you would have heard as direct lithium extraction, which is an umbrella of technologies. We do have, commercial versions in, for example, in Argentina, but a lot of them are just getting started, moving through the pilot into those commercial phases now. But that is the future of lithium brine.
And is that where you see yourselves going as well, towards that innovative technology?
So ourselves as a technology company, we've taken a role in supporting those projects.
Yeah.
So we support the miner. We also work closely with the DLE technology companies because we actually have a modular carbonation plant which bolts onto the back end of a DLE plant. So we are having those conversations with them, but we don't do DLE ourselves.
So you did have one of those sort of, okay, we're really onto something here moments, and that was when you decided to set up the company, or was that further along the sort of chain? Have you had a eureka moment where you're like, oh yes, I'm glad I nailed my colours to this mast?
Yeah, I think that came in around 2015 was kind of, we had the Volkswagen Dieselgate scandal, and that really pushed and got a lot of people asking, okay, things in Europe, keeping up with regulations in Europe is very difficult. There needs to be a transition to new energies. And that was about the time when the seed was planted, okay, we're going to start a company, but 2018 was our first operation. And that started with working with Albemarle in Chile.
And has it been plain sailing since then?
No,
I have a feeling the answer will be no.
It certainly hasn't.
It hasn't been for anyone in lithium, let's be honest.
No, I mean, them's the breaks when you move into an industry in its infancy.
Yeah.
And you have these booms and busts, and this won't be the last. Let's say bust. Yeah.
Well, at the moment, but there's definitely, it's really interesting. Everyone I've spoken to so far says it's surprisingly optimistic. There's a real sense that there's movement in the right direction, and there is only one direction, because that is the way the world is moving when it comes to electrification and a desire for a more circular economy as well. Like it's very interesting to get that sort of sense out of this event. Now, you worked across some of the most sort of remote, high-pressure environments in the world. Has that shaped your ability to sort of ride these booms and busts out, do you think?
I think so, yeah. Part of the draw of lithium was that it has the geostrategic link. It's being looked at very closely across the world, and the thrill of being in a high-stakes environment where you've got to make decisions very fast, with a lot of risk at times, with a lot of uncertainty, and I think that's a large part of what we've brought over. As a business, we're very nimble, fast operating. In our branding, we say that we want to accelerate lithium supply because we see the demand that's ahead of us, and we think the brine projects especially need to move faster than they are. So we're helping clients do that. But a lot of that resourcefulness from oil and gas, working in very remote locations, where things often don't go the way you expect. Oil and gas is looked at as a very well-funded industry, with which you expect to be very well organized. But in reality, in the field, it's, you have mishaps and dilemmas every day, and you've got to deal with them, often very far away from the office.
That's interesting. As a layperson, I did not know that. I felt it was all just very well established and straightforward, and the tech was there and you just use the tech. It sounds a little bit more exciting on the ground in many ways. Did you expect it to become this geopolitical when it came to lithium? Did you expect it to become this much of a pinch point in some ways?
Yeah, I had a sense of it, just coming from oil and gas and my entire career being in that industry that's everyone's asking what's happening with the oil price, and the oil price is going up or it's going down, and how that affects the rest of the global economy. And when you look at lithium, it's the key enabler for this energy transition we're going through. So it's only natural that it's going to be the element that everyone is going to start to look at more importantly, and make bets on what's going to happen with the economy in general.
Do you think, well, they'll start having on business shows, do you think soon people will start talking about the lithium price in the same way they do the Brent price, for example, Brent crude price?
I think it's possible.
That's so interesting. No, I mean, that's absolutely fascinating. Okay, so you've mentioned Latin America a lot, and that is where, you've worked extensively. You said that initially you were thinking of, the initial idea came when you were in Bolivia, for example. And that is where most of the Latin America is where most of the world's lithium brine is sourced. Mm-hmm. What is actually changing on the ground there at the moment, and how is that actually shaping the new chapter for brine field development?
Yeah, so what you're seeing now is the national companies starting to come in. YPF in Argentina, you've got Codelco in Chile, even Pemex in Mexico. So a lot of people haven't probably heard too much about Mexico, but it is looking to develop its own lithium industry. And so these national players are coming in and making a serious push to develop the resources. And then alongside that, you've got the oil and gas majors, which have started to make big entries into the industry, especially in Latin America, especially in Argentina. And with them, they bring a similar mindset to how we view the lithium industry. There's lots of technology and talent that can be brought across and shared from oil and gas into lithium.
So you're headhunting, basically.
All the time.
For the most part, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I mean, along those lines, scaling a business like yours can't be easy because there is this need for expertise and there is a sense of real growth, fast growth. What is one lesson that you've learned the hard way, and what would you do differently? Bit of a classic question for you.
Yeah, it's got to be linked to one of the booms and busts, or the busts that we've gone through. So in 2023, that was a boom period in the industry, 2022, 2023.
Okay.
And we were under real pressure from clients to increase our capacity to serve them. So we expanded very fast. We hired people, built gear, and then 2024 came. Everything slowed down. Yeah. And we had to stop, reflect, recalibrate. And I think just one of the lessons is that, we are still in a very volatile industry. Even, for the next decade, we're going to see these ups and downs. It's a natural part of a extractive industry, but it's especially prominent now because the base of production is still fairly small compared to when you compare to other extractive industries. So that's just a natural part of being in this industry. And the learning there is when we scale, you've got to scale, yes, you've got to scale fast, but you've got to scale efficiently. So, smartly instead of...
Do you think anyone could have forecast that dip in 24, though?
In hindsight, you can always forecast.
Yeah. Hindsight, what do they call it? Hindcast.
Yeah, exactly.
There needs to be a new...
I think you had Joe here before me, and I mean, he's one of the world's leading experts.
He didn't forecast it.
His common saying is, I know what I forecast, and I know that I'll be wrong.
Brilliant. Okay, so the answer basically no. Yeah. So then how do you keep perspective when you're running, a company in such a fast-moving, fast-evolving, fast-changing, fast-dipping, fast-rising sort of market?
Yeah, it is challenging. It's a psychological challenge to balance. When you go through the booms, the industry's overly optimistic. When you go through the down periods, they're overly pessimistic. And you've got to kind of separate yourself from that and just keep your eye on the long term. Everything points positively for the long term. Lithium-ion battery demand is continuing to increase strongly. Lithium brine is the lowest cost production in the market. And so for us, our best long-term bet is to serve this low-cost market in an industry we know is going to do well in the long term.
Okay, so along those lines, more specifically, so that's the thematic sort of forecast, but more specifically, what is next for you guys? Are you looking in different countries? Are you looking to expand globally, or just expand within countries?
Yeah, so as a business, we're moving more into what we call brine field management, which is really the full offer from exploration to production and operating the mine for an asset owner.
Okay.
So one thing with lithium brine is that, and it's not just owning to lithium brine, but a lot of owners are not miners, or some owners are not miners, nor extractive industry developers. So you're having companies come in that need that expertise. They need to lock in supply, but they don't necessarily have the expertise to do it. So that's where we want to be that partner as a service company still, to help them develop and then run that mine.
That's easier, I suppose, because it means you don't own the asset. So there's a certain amount of, there's slightly less responsibility if you're going to have these cycles.
Yeah, and for us, it keeps us independent. So for us, being independent in the market and being able to guide any client, including DLE technology companies, independently, that's a competitive advantage for us. We're never looked at as being in competition with our clients.
That's really interesting. Okay, so my final question, and this is the question that we're asking everyone who comes through the live lounge doors, which is, and I know we're only just starting the conference, so this is a slightly unfair question for you, but because I'm sure it might change over the next couple of days. But if you were to leave the conference today, what would be your key takeaway that you've sort of learned in, networking, chatting to people, the keynote speeches, all of that so far?
Yeah, I think you nailed it at the start. It's despite the down market, people are still optimistic.
They are. It's true. Yeah. Everyone is optimistic. Yeah. It's really interesting. Although it's interesting, there is a sort of glum determination for optimism rather than an exuberant optimism, I would say.
Yeah.
That's just my read from the outside in.
You have to be an eternal optimist to operate here.
Yeah, cautious optimism. I like that phrase. Yeah. Jean, thank you so much. Really interesting conversation. Thank you so much for joining us in the live lounge, and thank you to everyone who's been listening and chomping on popcorn here. Actually, not many people are chomping on popcorn. It's really good. You need to grab some. And if you're listening later on, thank you very much indeed for tuning in. It has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. This episode of the Fastmarkets Live Lounge has been brought to you thanks to Aquatech, and their support really does help power the voices and the ideas shaping the future of battery materials. Now, you can catch this episode, the whole of it, plus all of the others in this series on any of your sort of major podcast platforms we're talking about. Spotify, there's Apple Podcasts. You can also catch us on the Fastmarkets YouTube channel. That's if you want to watch the whole video. We also share our highlights across social media. They'll be coming in the sort of coming months. So be sure to follow Fastmarkets to make sure you're completely connected. Remember, you can also follow, like, comment. We love your comments. So just be sure to interact whenever you feel the urge. But yes, thank you very much indeed for listening.